Hello, it's Wayne here from Whiskey Alpha, and it is Wednesday, stupid o'clock in the morning, because I'm now, guess what, going to the airfield, and this is the start of a marathon journey to AeroExpo in Friedrichshafen, because unlike everyone else who decided to go on a nice commercial aircraft and get in-flight service, etc., I decided to get up at pre-6 o'clock in the morning, drag the wifey out of bed, say hello wifey.
Stupid o'clock in the morning.
She's not happy about getting up early, and we are going to fly our little Cessna 172 across Europe to Friedrichshafen. There's three of us in the aircraft. It's going to be interesting because I haven't actually got into Europe yet. Last time I tried to fly to Europe, we got diverted to Sandown, so it could be fun. Anyway, let's see how it goes.
It's Rich, throttle friction is set, the RP is called, the mags are on both, the primer is locked. Prime. Happy.
Need a wee.
Street traffic, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, taking off runway 08. Airspeed's building. P's and P's are as expected when she's called.
Lovely and smooth.
I made the takeoff time 02, do you agree?
Paper.
I'll write that down later maybe. Very hazy actually, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be the fog that was around this morning. It burns up, it'll burn off quite quickly.
Or it's all that crap from the east possibly. That information, good morning, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, request flight plan activation at time 02.
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, London information, good morning, possible details?
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, Cessna 172, 3POB VFR from Elstree to Lima Foxtrot Alpha, Quebec. Took off time 02.
Golf Kilo, Kilo, roger. Are you remaining with me for basic service or going en route?
Going en route, please.
Bye-bye. Golf Kilo, Kilo, information, your flight plan has been activated. Goodbye.
Golf Kilo, Kilo, thank you, bye-bye. Can I get...
W2 forward, London station, nothing here.
There you go. Tap end, please. Which is... I don't know, that's 130780.
Thank you.
Are you actually want me to do some work?
I'll also get you, Wayne, to act as an autopilot for me briefly.
Yep. Oh, I have control.
I'm just going to look up a power setting because we've got the gadget.
You notice we mentioned the gadget. Well, the gadget is an FP5L, which is a fuel flow meter, which was something we just had fitted to Kilo Kilo. It was something that we'd never actually used in anger before, and it was going to make things, hopefully, slightly easier to operate, particularly in terms of fuel planning.
It would be nice to set it and then we can use a bit of calibration at the other end, right? But, oh, can I have 2000 please? I was aiming for 2100 but I managed to lose 100, so... Alright, so 2410 RPM and 9.1 gallons per hour.
A little bit of shit at the moment, isn't it?
Some of it is that inversion, so I'm hoping that, you know, it's good that I know exactly where to aim at the lakes, you know? Southend radar, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, request traffic service and zone transit.
Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, Southend approach, stand by, clear. Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, Southend radar, morning pass message.
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo, Kilo, Cessna 172, 3POB VFR from Elstree to Albel-Bray. Request a traffic service and a transit of your zone on track Odoku, direct Dover as high as possible, please.
Golf Kilo, Kilo, roger, identified traffic service, QNH 1026, due traffic information, DC distance from Southend, possible late warning traffic, squawk 4575.
Traffic service noted 1026 4575, Golf Kilo, Kilo.
Okay, so what's your altitude and flight rules?
1950, 1026 VFR.
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo, squawk 1177 with mode Charlie, basic service.
1177 with mode Charlie. Our FIR boundary point is Deval and our ETA is 03.
Kilo, kilo, roger.
Kilo request frequency change to Lille Alpha 120.275.
Kilo, kilo, roger. Squawk conspicuity. Bye-bye.
Conspicuity, Golf Kilo, bye bye. Lille Alpha, bonjour, Golf Delta Charlie, Kilo.
Golf Delta Charlie, Kilo, Lille, bonjour, squawk 6100, QNH 1024, have your flight plan to Albert, report for frequency change.
61001024, Wilco, Golf Kilo.
Yes, we finally managed to get into France. Last time I tried this, we diverted to Sandown, so we got a little bit further this time.
The other one first.
Reçu. Squad 466 Zulu, turn left, direct Kilo, Oscar Kilo.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks.
Left, direct Kilo, Oscar Kilo, Aircraft 46.
Kilo, field in sight.
Kilo, you're on number 1, report final 09.
Wilco, Golf Kilo. I'm pretty confident that's it as well, actually.
Oh, actually, yeah, the airfield is there.
Yes, yeah. I don't know what you're looking at, but that's definitely...
Yes, yeah.
Looking over there. Everyone strapped in and secure.
Yep, harness line secure. He's on the left.
Yep.
So we've now landed at Albert Bray. I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to try the French pronunciation, but fundamentally it wasn't that bad. The weather was quite benign, we didn't have any issues with air traffic control, and we're now at Albert Bray. Next stage is to get our passport stamped and fill up with fuel, and I'm now going to be flying the second leg. Destination, Saarbrücken.
Around the outside of these.
Yep, right.
Oh, that way. Yep.
Stay between beacons.
Hey, firm, Golf Kilo. Golf Kilo, ready for departure.
Kilo, taxi, backtrack if you need, line up 09, and report ready for departure 09.
Golf Kilo, ready.
Golf, Kilo, runway 09, clear for takeoff, the wind 070 degrees, 12 knots, maximum 18, and report leaving my control zone.
Clear for takeoff 09, Wilco, Golf Kilo. Airspeed active, 40 knots. Altitude-wise, I've got us at 5.5 on this leg. Okay. When we cross over, we will need to go below 4.5 based on some danger areas, which they've changed the times on them actually, so I think we'll be okay. So I would go to 5.5. Today is the 19th, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, they're not active to 13:45, so we'll be clear of those. They were showing them active earlier.
Golf Kilo Kilo, leaving new zone.
Kilo, 95, you can contact Lily if you want on 134.825. And your flight plan is accurate.
Merci, and we will go over to Lille 134.825, Golf Kilo Kilo, bye bye.
See you soon.
Lille Enfant, bonjour, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo.
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo, bonjour, I have your flight plan to Echo Delta November Yankee, squawk 6100 QNH 1023.
61001023, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo.
And yeah, can you find the bit of paper as well?
Thinking that.
It is surprisingly distracting.
You notice at this point we're talking about a distraction in the cockpit, and we did have a little bit of a distraction in the cockpit. Our artificial horizon had decided to pick the most inopportune moment to fail, so it was basically sitting like that. And although I'm a VFR pilot, I do glance the artificial horizon from time to time, particularly in a climb when you can't actually see out and see the horizon. And quite frankly, it was distracting. So we got a piece of paper and we covered it up.
Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo, which altitude are you climbing to?
5,500, Golf Kilo Kilo.
Copy Kilo Kilo, and for information, there's paradrop activity in Perron, Lima Foxtrot Alpha Golf. Avoid overhead airfield.
Loco, Golf Kilo Kilo.
Et 075, rappelez-moi, approchant la CTR de l'Équin.
For some obscure reason, the day that we decided to fly, the French decided to have Operation Orion with around about 29 NOTAMs across the eastern side of France, which was something that we now had to thread our way through. Each NOTAM was differently timed, so it wasn't just one big block, and we were attempting to try and skirt through them, slowing down to try and get through one NOTAM and then speeding up to be able to get through the other one before it actually switched on. Luckily, we had Neil in the back who had it all under control.
Right, so, Neil, yes, had you worked out, oh my god, you're a track up man. Yes, terrifying. Had you worked out in huge detail how to wend our way through all those different areas south of Luxembourg? Because I don't see a way through it.
What restricted areas south of Luxembourg?
That's what I came through them.
Well, yeah, well, it's, you just did that.
00 QNH 1023.
610.
Kilo Kilo, what restricted areas? What are in?
Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo, squawk 7000, and you may contact Paris information 125.7. Bye bye.
7,000-1257, Golf Kilo Kilo, bye bye. Paris information, Golf Delta Charlie Kilo Kilo.
Kilo Kilo, Paris information, bonjour.
We come to my landing at Saarbrücken, and unfortunately, or fortunately for me, there isn't any camera footage of that. Mainly because I was concentrating on flying the plane and didn't have time to set any cameras up. And when you're doing long routes, you also need to consider how long the batteries last for. And although I had extended battery packs on the cameras, I didn't have enough time to set the cameras up to capture my landing. Really sorry. It could have been an interesting landing actually, because due to the wind picking up and a bit of a crosswind, the advice that I was given by the other two people in the plane was come in with 0 flaps. And I thought, okay, yeah, I'm fine with that, I can do that. Unfortunately, I did come in a bit too fast and we did a go around. Really simple, we just did a go around. Saarbrücken is an airfield that I've never been to before. I'm in controlled airspace and I had a lot to think about, and I admit I was probably getting a little bit close to my limits. But we did the go around, rejoined the circuit. This time I decided I'm going to fly it exactly how I would fly it. A little bit faster because of the issues with wind, but I was still going to use 3 stages of flap because that's what I'm used to. And the landing was fine, no massive issues. So we're at the start of our third leg, we've fueled up and it should be a simple flight from Saarbrücken straight to Friedrichshafen. Although the weather was beginning to look a little bit iffy in places, so we began to think about what's our plan A, B, C, D, E and F. We were planning. The initial plan was fly straight to Friedrichshafen, but we did have a plan B, which was effectively turn around and come back to Saarbrücken and re-evaluate. We also had a couple of diversion airfields on the route, just in case things got a little bit dicey and we had to divert. As we were flying, we're listening to air traffic control and we're beginning to hear indications that the weather further ahead is getting a little bit dicey. Well, dicey, it was getting worse. And we could also see the fact that we were beginning to see build up a cloud. The problem was, along our route, we're heading into higher elevations, so we've not just got clouds coming down, we've got mountains coming up. None of us were really beginning to be comfortable with this. David, who is PIC, certainly wasn't, and we made quite an early decision to do a divert to an airfield called Baden-Baden. Called air traffic control, they were quite happy, called Baden-Baden, and they were quite happy to accept us. So we flew into Baden-Baden. Once we landed at Baden-Baden, we fueled up again. Things were made a little bit more complex as a lot of fueling in Europe requires something called an AirBP card or a Total card. These are effectively fuel cards. This was something we knew about, and in fact in Albert Bray and also in Saarbrücken we could have used them to fill up. The problem was I applied for it 2 months before the trip and it actually arrived the day after we left. Thanks AirBP, could have made it a little bit quicker. But anyway, we still managed to pay by credit card without any big issues. Once we filled up, we went into the nice little pilot's lounge and bumped into a couple of other pilots who were also trying to get into Friedrichshafen. This wasn't just us who were having issues with weather, this was a number of pilots. The good news is these pilots were local to the area, so they had some ideas as to where we should go, what routes we should try, and we fundamentally came up with 3 routes. The first route was to try going straight across to Friedrichshafen. The second route was to fly south and then go across one of the valleys. The third route was to go south further, down along the Rhine Valley and then cut across. And the fourth plan was to actually return to Baden-Baden and stay in the hotel and hopefully see if the weather was going to improve the next day. So we took off from Baden-Baden, and it was clear the direct route to Friedrichshafen just wasn't going to happen, so we headed south and then we took a left and headed down quite a large valley which was well marked and quite clear. The weather was still a bit grotty, and there were a couple of points where you're looking out the window going, yep, that's not great, don't really want to be flying in this. Oh, I am flying in this. But at all times we were still VFR and it was still safe. Once we managed to pass the back mountains, the weather seemed to improve slightly, and certainly by the time we hit Lake Constance, the weather definitely improved. We actually did do quite a large chunk heading south, which meant we actually went into Switzerland, which was great because it meant my European tour, I visited another country. And then you look up and look at the Alps and think, I thought they were hills. They are serious mountains, but we didn't go anywhere near those. Constance, the weather was much better, and the approach and landing into Friedrichshafen was without incident, no massive issues. The air traffic controllers at Friedrichshafen, who let us in without any big problems. We were actually 2.5 hours late for our slot booking, but I think they took into consideration the fact that the weather at certain points had been atrocious, and we did actually make it there. Landing at Friedrichshafen, nice big airport, massively long taxiways, great airport, fantastic facilities. We had a great little guy in this follow me van who took us into a parking spot. We had the choice between grass or concrete, and we opted for the concrete because we just had visions of being stuck in the grass and not being able to pull ourselves out. Service was impeccable. Within a couple of minutes we had the fuel truck turn up and we refueled, ready for our trip back, and then we jumped in a bus and got a lift to the airport. Our hotel was about 2 minutes from the airport, so literally we walked out the door, turned right, and we're at our hotel. And we celebrated with pizza. It was a fantastic flight, and I would like to thank David and Neil for being part of that. I learned lots of things on this flight, and it's been a fantastic flight, a real experience. I would describe it as epic. In total, I think we flew about 6.5 hours. In total actual time, it was about 10 hours from start to finish, which was probably about the same if you flew commercial, because I know commercial flights had to stop at Frankfurt and all that shizzle. I learnt more from this flight than I have in the last 6 months to a year's worth of flying in the UK, purely and simply just having to deal with all the other bits and pieces that are thrown at you. I couldn't have done this on my own. I wouldn't have done this on my own. I think if you're going to do a long extended flight like this, it's a really good idea to have another pilot with you. One, you can share the load. Two, you can pretend to be an autopilot, so if the PIC is wanting a rest for a couple of minutes, need to sort something out, then you can take over. But also you've got someone to help with navigation, you've got someone to help and share the radios. It just makes things easier, and quite frankly, it's a lot more fun than doing it on your own. Sitting in a plane for 6 hours on your own, how boring can that be? Well, that's the end of the video, recording my epic journey to Friedrichshafen. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. If you have, please consider the old thumbs up, and maybe if you're not subscribed so far, please consider subscribing. I have a little subscriber counter here, which can go tick every time someone subscribes, and it's lovely, I love it. But whatever you do, please remember, fly safe and have fun. Bye! And that bit I had to add in because last time I did a video, I didn't do the bye, and someone went, I was waiting for the bye. So I'll give you a double one. Bye! Thanks for watching. Bye.
Alps.